So Matt, when are you going on vacation?
This Sunday, actually.
Okay, cool. Yes, the Rodenberg B&B will be open this Sunday.
Wait a second. I don't like the sound of that. Hey everyone, welcome back to TV Guys, the show where we would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids. I'm Matt,
I'm Brian.
and we are talking about the scourge of today, the mischievous youth that are plaguing our society. So, teenagers beware. We're gonna be anti-teen all in your face. I know we both have been youth leaders in our lives and have dedicated parts of our life to pouring into the next generation. But today we're gonna resent them because teens can be trouble, and we're gonna talk about those troubling teens.
Okay. So Matt, what is the most mischievous thing you did as a teen?
Oh my gosh. Uh okay, so we had a cast party for when we did Les Mis in high school. And I know that that starts off as like sounding like really nerdy, but
Yep,
for
it
some
does.
reason for some reason all of us theater kids crowding together being awesome. But it was like we separated into guys and girls for some reason. Like we don't usually do that for cast parties, but the guys one we like ended up having an overnighter at some guy's house, and he lived not too far from a golf course. And so like we snuck over there at like 4 in the morning, and we like went through this chain fence area to where they had the driving range, and we all start like picking up golf balls. Like we're stealing golf balls for some stupid reason. And so we're gathering all these golf balls together, and like this guy like lives on the grounds too. And so there's one of the guys who wasn't, super smart. He was like way off closer to that place in the light. Like we're out at like the 400 500 range, and he's like that little green area where it's like they you can hit to if you're not very good at hitting golf balls. And so he's like, guys, there's a ton over here. Like, dude, shut up. They're gonna find you. And so we all have like all these golf balls in our shirts, just holding them up. And then we see like a light come on, and we like all freak out. And we run, and we like go back through the fence, and we get in our cars, and we're like, the police are coming. And like, you know how teens overreact to everything and make it a bigger deal than it is. We get back to the house and just put all of these golf balls in a giant barrel, and there's like 20 of us. And so we're putting all these golf balls in a barrel, and like we end up counting them, and we stole 666 golf balls, and we're like, oh, that's not good. And so then at that point I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm out. I'm done with this.
I just have to imagine, okay, how nerdy that sounds. So first of all, you're a theater kid, which isn't, you don't let you're a teenager who doesn't let girls at your party. You go steal
We're
golf
too cool for
balls,
them,
and
obviously.
you have to get an accurate count. So you spend time counting 600 golf balls.
Yeah. And then in the morning, for some reason, I don't know if I was around for this part, but they decide to call the course and like, I've got your balls. And then they hung up, and like he calls back. He's like, I've got caller ID, you idiots. And they're like, oh my gosh. They hang up. So then they're like panicked that the cops are gonna show up at his house, which didn't happen. But
I feel like I have an accurate view as to what teenage Matt was like.
how about you, Brian?
Okay, mine isn't like super crazy, but I think it's better than yours.
Oh, okay.
So the youth pastor we had before Paul, I don't think you didn't know him. He gone before you joined our church. It's a bunch of us TP'd his house. We got over 200 rolls of toilet paper, and they had some really tall pine trees. And if you threw it and cut it just right, it'll catch at the top and just unravel all the way around.
Oh
And
man.
we got their front yard, their backyard, all around their play structure. We surrounded up their cars. We chalked up their driveway. Turns out they were home and awake during this time. They just didn't look outside, didn't notice we were doing this. And so at the end, we had us all get in the car. We had a friend Alex knock on the door, then run, jump in the moving car, and we circled the block. And as they're looking outside, we like drove by yelling "yeah" and stuff. And we felt jerks later on because at this point they hadn't announced it, but they were planning on moving, and they had the realtor come into their house the next morning, and we covered everything in toilet paper. So they had to go out at like midnight or 1 in the morning or whenever it was, and like on toilet paper their trees and they couldn't even get all of it. Like there was still some at the tops of the trees.
You're terrible people. You're laughing about it. You're like, haha, they might not have been able to sell their house.
Well, you know what? Everything worked out, and it's still like probably the most rebellious. Neither, if you guys couldn't tell, neither me or Matt were super rebellious teenagers.
No, I was so rebellious. I blew things up
I at
all
least
the
did a
time.
little bit of property damage. You cleaned up a property.
Yeah. You know what? Someone had to do it. And we got a bunch of free golf balls out of it. So
it's just not often that I'm the less nerdy one in a pairing, so I'm going to use this when I can.
I still feel like you're plenty nerdy on that one. Plenty
Well,
nerdy.
yes, but nerdier.
All right, whatever. It's not like we were out there like singing, "Do you hear the people sing?" while we are picking up all the golf balls.
You were singing a different song, weren't you?
We weren't like Andy Bernard and doing viral marketing out there. All right. Well, we are talking about television mischievous teens, not us. I mean, like, we're very mischievous, obviously.
Yes.
But there are some that is like, this is their freaking job. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to talk about who are our top picks. And I'm just going to start because, like, I've got we talked a little bit about this. We didn't say any like names, but I've got the only female on the list. And so I'm going to start with her on number 3. This isn't a show that like I watch a ton of. I've seen maybe like a season and a half, 2.5 seasons, something like that, here and there. And it's not bad. I've even talked about this show before, but the show is Bob's Burgers, and the character that I love on that,
Louise.
The one that's really good is Louise. She
Yes.
is like the epitome of like a mischievous teen, where she's like she has all these crazy ideas. The way that she views the world is just so off kilter and creative that it's a lot of fun. Like all of their kids are pretty crazy and pretty mischievous. They could all fit in this category, but she is the absurd, eclectic, crazy one.
Mm.
And it's just a lot of fun to watch because he has his eccentricities as well, but he's the more down-to-earth guy.
Yeah.
And so to watch him cope with his daughter, and like he's got a good fatherly love for his daughter, and so it's hard for him to like discipline her in this, but at the same time he's like, what the heck is my kid on? And so she just does the most absurd stuff. I don't have too many examples because like I said, I'm not like a steadfast fan, but if you've seen Bob's Burgers, you know that she is the best part of several episodes.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, I don't think Tina could fit into that category, but Jean and Louise definitely could.
Yeah. Jean and Louise are two different sides of the same coin.
Yes. Eugene Merman, his voice is also one that has very interesting comedy, but he's one that's got very, not inappropriate, just very weird comedy. I don't know if you've heard his stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, the character of Jean is also pretty absurd too, but it's more in like this one track where it's like with Louise, you can get anything. Like the sky's the limit for what she's going to come up with and what she's going to introduce as a monkey wrench. Whereas Gene is like, you can usually guess where he would go with his craziness.
Yeah. For my number 3 pick, I got to go with one of the classics, Zach Morris, Saved by the Bell. I know you've only seen the one episode I gave you.
Mm-hmm. And like bits and pieces of others that have just been on.
So basically, it's kind of in a fictional world where, for the point where he could even like say freeze and like freeze time and talk to the audience, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's different things like in order to help. A lot of times his schemes are to help people, but there's still like ridiculous schemes. They're pulling over Mr. Belding's eyes, like having a remote where he can open up all the lockers and have like a flash sale to sell Lisa's clothes to have her money, or like they secretly take pictures of the girls' swim team and make calendars out of it, or they do
a good old fashioned sexual harassment.
Yes, exactly. But it always ends with the girls getting the upper hand if that's the where they're out there going.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing, like he's basically Zach Morris runs the school, and like whenever they have like a serious moment that he can have a heart to heart with Mr. Belding, but normally it's like Mr. Belding walks away and he's like, "Hey, look, this is what I'm going to do." And he walked, Mr. Belding walks back and says, "What's been going on?" oh, nothing. It's just that's kind of the cheesy 80s 90s dynamic they have, and Zach
Yeah.
Morris is just the pinnacle of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen parts of it, and I saw a really funny, like back when cracked.com was making these after hours videos, um, which is my favorite thing that they did, where they would like discuss pop culture, and they had it scripted pretty well, and so the
Yeah.
script was actually really funny. And one of the ones they talked about was like, what would be one of the best superpowers to have? And they actually ended up on like Zach Morris's power of being able to stop time and like interact, and like it's like Zach Morris is God in the
Mhm.
Saved by the Bell universe,
Yep.
and so like it's like anyone would want to have those sort of supreme powers,
Mhm.
but he uses them for evil,
Yeah.
clearly.
For evil. It's funny. And the only thing I've seen of the new Saved by the Bell is this tribute scene they did for Screech. Because when the actor who played Screech died, they
Mhm.
had the other five main teens all come back, sitting in the Max, which was the Saved by the Bell like hangout spot, and they're
Mhm.
all like reminiscing about scenes with Screech. And they talked about there's an episode where Screech gets hit by lightning and can suddenly see the future for a little bit.
Yeah.
And Zach is like, "Why didn't we use that to like because he was saying Zach used that to cheat on a test. He's like, why didn't we use that to find Bin Laden or like stop the Gulf War? And they're like, huh? Like, look, things like they could have used their crazy powers for good, but they didn't.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the next one. I put him on here because he is so iconic, and like there's been a lot of seasons of this show, and so he's got a lot of great moments, but he's also got a lot of like, he can be a villain in the show. He can, maybe not a villain, but he can be an antagonist for the show for sure.
Yep.
And so I'm gonna go with the classic Bart Simpson
Oh
as my
yeah,
number
for
two.
sure.
He's got some, like I said, some fantastic moments. One of my favorite pranks, and just I don't know if I could call it physical comedy, but the comedy of this was just so hilarious. It's such a stupid joke, but his dad wants a beer, so he gets a beer, and it's like he skateboards to the local like paint shop and puts it on one of those like the shakers for like mixing the paint, and he
Yeah.
puts it on there for like a half hour, and he comes back to get it, and then he like it's still shaking on its own. He like puts it in the fridge, and it's still like bubbling, and like so when he goes to get the beer for his dad, he brings it to him, and the dad's about to open it, and like Bart comes out of from around the corner, and he's gonna go ha ha, and like he gets halfway through it, and then there's like the mushroom cloud explosion of the beer from a distance, and it is just the funniest delivery of that. I love that joke. So I mean, he is constantly, of course, doing one-upsmanship. He is constantly
Mm-hmm.
pranking. Like that is, if you think about a prankster, he is top of the line when you're figuring out who is iconic. Bart
Yeah.
Simpson, you can't not talk about him.
Well, and with both Bob's Burgers and Simpsons, with animation in general, there's a lot more at your fingertips because you don't actually have to do the pyrotechnics. It's all just sound effects in animation.
Yep.
They're talking about the scene in, I think it's the Simpsons movie where they have the pig. And someone was saying, like, yeah, if it's a live action show, there'd be a lot of meetings like, well, does it have to be a pig? What if you got like a funny dog or something like that? Whereas like animation, just draw a pig, It's like
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about like health and safety or pyrotechnics or anything. Just draw it.
And of course, it didn't have to be a pick. Like I remember that movie. I'm like, well, that's an odd choice, but I guess that fits him. And it's just, it's just an idea for the movie that was like a couple-minute gag. And I think it came back later in the movie too. I don't remember it super well, but it's like, of course, it wouldn't have needed to be, and we probably would have lost the Spider Pig song.
Oh, what a shame.
I know. What would our children have done living in a world never knowing Spider Pig?
The only two things I remember about the Simpsons movie was Spider Pig and the fact that Green Day made an appearance.
We've been rocking out for 2.5 hours straight. We'd like to take a minute to talk to you about the environment. Boo! That was such a good. I love that gag.
I feel like you pulled that up pretty quickly. Have you seen that movie recently?
No, I don't think I've seen it since the theaters, but that gag was so good, like it locked in my brain. I also remember like that because I remember the general plot. I don't remember too many gags in the plot, but I remember like they have to cover the city of Springfield
Oh, I remember
with a
that.
big glass dome.
Didn't someone ride a motorcycle up the side of it?
Yep. Yeah, they did. I mean, that's nowhere near how physics work, but it was
Right?
to save the day. Homer and Bart are in the like they're going around like it's one of those circular things at a carnival,
Yeah.
and they're going around the giant dome. Not nearly enough centrifugal force, of course, but they're taking it to throw the bomb outside of the dome.
Oh, so they basically are doing the Tony Stark Iron Man in Avengers.
In a way, yeah. I mean, obviously this comes first. Um,
So Avengers stole it.
Another great joke from Simpsons movie is when the dome comes over the town. It shows both the church and the bar, and everyone runs out of both of those, looks in the sky and panics, and they all switch places. So all the people in the bar run into the church, and all the people from the church run into the bar. I'm like,
That is a good gag.
that's a great joke,
Yeah.
top tier. So there you go, Bart Simpson.
All right, great pick. I didn't think of any animation. I don't have any animated on my list.
Oh
Next
my
one.
gosh, all of mine are animated. I've got some honorable mentions, but all of my top three are animated. I don't get it.
All right, my next one is Lewis Stevens from Even Stevens, who is again another not as well known of a show, but as pinnacle for this one. He is one of the two that I mentioned who his parents go on vacation and him and his friends turn the house into the Stevens Inn, I think, because they're trying to raise money for a ski trip. So they turn the whole place into a B&B. And this is one of the shows where he always has some ridiculous scheme, and it's Disney Channel version of reality, which means they can go big and it kind of like The Simpsons. They can go big and unrealistic, but it's Disney Channel, so who cares?
Yeah,
And what are some of his other schemes that he does? He does. I haven't seen the show in about a year or so. He,
that's more recent than I guess I saw the musical episode when we watched that, but I haven't since before that, since I was a teen.
yeah. Well, another one he did is that at the graduation he had a bowl. Okay, this was accidental. This is another like really this mistake he made. He had a big balloon that was supposed to be full of confetti at his sister's eighth grade graduation, and he asked Beans, "Oh, did you fill it with confetti?" And Beans like, "Oh, confetti. I thought you said," and it pops and everything gets covered in spaghetti.
That's fair. Of course, that would make sense for physics wise as well, because
Yeah.
spaghetti's not that dense.
Mm-hmm. Or like they knock a hole in their basement wall and they end up digging out this tunnel, and it turned out it's like this giant cavernous booby trap thing where it's a giant encrusted sausage that had been laying underground forever, and him and his dad have to do this whole Indiana Jones parody where they have to lose the sausage down this big cavernous crack to save their lives, and it's just
One of the only episodes I remember vividly is
yeah.
when like a chocolate bar salesman comes
Oh
to the
yeah.
school for fundraisers, and they're
Mm-hmm.
competing to sell these. And apparently it's like this pyramid scheme or like the MLM marketing where you have to buy the product first, which that's predatory for schools. But you have to buy the product first and then pay back the money
Yeah.
once you sell the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but he like Lewis, in an effort to beat his best friend, gets all of these boxes, and then his brother is taking like this long hot shower, and it heats up the pipe so much that the chocolate is resting against that it melts all this chocolate, and there's like this chocolate like ocean just
Yes.
flooding out of the garage.
Well, because it wasn't just a hot shower. He turned off the safety gauge on the hot water heater to basically turn into a sauna.
Yeah.
He said he made the comment. He said, "I could boil a lobster in the toilet right now."
Yes. Which I don't know how you do that, but I don't think I'd want to eat that lobster.
True. But yeah, Lewis Stevens is one of those characters when you're a teenager, you watch, that's funny. As an adult, you're like, oh my gosh, I would have a heart attack if this kid was my son.
That's how media is as you get older. That's why I love this is a little bit of a detour. That's why I love the movie Goofy Movie, because Goofy Movie is one of those that's like, sure, it's exaggerated, but as a kid you're like, I totally get Max's point, and then as an adult you totally get Goofy's point, and yet you can still also get the other point of like the generation you're not at. You're like, yeah, I as an adult I understand where Max is coming from. I remember what it was like to be a teenager, and as a kid I was like, yeah, I can understand that Goofy just wants to hang out with his son. It's so well written for being a stupid Goofy movie based off of Goof Troop. Like, how the heck did they make such a good movie? I don't get it.
And it is underrated for sure.
100%. I sing its praises way more than I ever thought I would in my life.
Yes. And amazing soundtrack.
100%. So with Even Stevens, one of the things like I said, I don't remember the show too much, but I do remember that the show, I will say, the writing of it was kind of tired. The writing of it was kind of lazy. It
After a bit,
was
yeah.
a string of, I didn't feel like there's anything unique about this show versus other shows of its same era. And that, and maybe that's why it wasn't as long lasting as some of these other ones. But one thing that this show did have going for it is it was really strong performances of Shia LaBeouf and Christy Carlson Romano. They
Mhm.
both had really good on-stage chemistry and charisma, and you just really liked these actors and you wanted to see more of them. And so we got a good career from Shia LaBeouf out of it, and we got something of a Disney career out of Christy Carlson Romano. I mean, she's Impossible, so we got that. But those two, they definitely deserved some more work after this show.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Christy Carlson Romano actually has a podcast with Will Friedle where they called I Hear Voices, where they talk about they interview different animation voices.
Nice. Yeah, I know that she took a break for a little bit to be more like, a normal human being. And I think she had kids in that time and stuff like that. But now she's back to doing some content.
Yep.
All right. So my number one, I made a reference to this in the opener, but I am stretching the term of Mischevous a little bit because I felt like this teen fits this. And he looks like he's older, but he is a teen. Like all of these guys in this show are teens, and that's Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
I really like Shaggy. Is like, to me, Scooby-Doo, like, you need Velma because you need someone smart to figure things out. You don't really need Fred and Daphne, but you need Scooby and Shaggy for the fun of it, and you need Velma to help figure things out. And so those are like the three characters to me that I'm like, you can't do the show without. And Shaggy is easily a fan favorite. He's a lot of fun. Doesn't matter which incarnation of Shaggy, he's usually one of the top characters. Mm-hmm. And it's really funny because he kind of is this empty slate of a character where he's, let's be honest, he's a stoner. That's what they're going for. Yeah. He's a guy who's baked out his mind, not really knowing what's going on around him. That's kind of why he's stupid, but he's always hungry. He's always the last in on knowing what and figuring out things that are going on. And usually him and Scooby somehow solve things accidentally, even though Velma independently arrived at what the actual conclusion of the thing was.
Yeah.
So it's fun to watch Shaggy be in these situations to screw up the villain's plans quite frequently. And even like when they develop a trap or a plan to get the villain, he is the wrench that throws it off, but also he's the wrench that ends up fixing it as well. He introduces that weird dynamic at the end. Is like, well, this isn't how he planned it, but somehow we still got our guy. Thanks, Shaggy and Scooby.
So this is what I like about the live action Scooby-Doo movies. They kind of play and bring to the forefront these character dynamics that were always subtext, like Velma being the smart one and Fred kind of taking credit sometimes, and Shaggy and Scooby being stoners. Like they kind of make that stuff more or less canon, even though we always knew it, and they kind of played with those dynamics a little bit more. But absolutely, Shaggy is definitely a mischievous teen, and sometimes you wonder, why is he part of Mystery Machine? He hates going on mysteries. All he wants to do is just hang out and eat food with Scooby-Doo. Like, why is he hanging out with the rest of them?
I don't know. Fred drives. So I was going to say, maybe they needed someone old enough to drive. Maybe they need someone old enough to buy beer. Maybe he's not actually a teen and he's just like the college guy, like older brother type, that he's just there and hasn't been able to move past the glory days of high school.
Gotcha. That would fit. That kind of makes it more sad, though.
It does. But here you go. We've reinvented some canon for you. Feel free to take it and run with it if you like that.
All right. So can you guess who my number one is?
Is it Sean Hunter from Boy Meets World?
It is Sean Hunter from Boy Meets World. I would say specifically like the earlier seasons, because later seasons Sean kind of turned into being more like melodramatic a little bit more. But in early, especially in high school, he got,
and Eric ends up being more the mischievous one in the later seasons, just because they kind of dumb down his character and they need him to be the anarchy of the show, so to speak.
Yes, which is a whole other conversation. We already had that conversation about Eric.
We did, yeah.
Sean Hunter, I mean, he's the one that early on, he put a cherry bomb in a mailbox. He turned Feeney's house into a B&B. He helped Corey throw a rave at Chubby's. It ended up being like an anniversary party for his parents with the monkeys randomly. There's a lot of Like Corey and Sean became known for their schemes, and it was always kind of like Sean was the quote unquote bad kid who always was the bad influence on Corey. Even though if you watch the show, like Sean is a not a very bad kid.
No, no, not at all. And I do like that they kind of start addressing that as they go on. There's like, sure, they pigeonhole him early on, and maybe that's a writer's mistake, but they grow as writers and they grow as cast members and
Mhm.
characters to then be able to start pulling that back and be like, actually, this is someone who is acting out because they don't have a solid home life. And
Yes.
you can see what the stability of being a part of the Matthews family and having Mr. Turner in his corner and
Mhm.
having Mr. Feeney who cares about him, like having a support system of adults who care in his life, what they've turned him into. And I think that is a complete understandable way to change his character and make him where he's not so much a rebellious teen and shift his character. And it is a very smart growth and like maybe smarter than they deserve credit for because he's that is such a unique way to show um a real life thing. Like there are teens that have that. They're like they're doing these things because they need people to believe in them and to be on their side.
Yeah, and you could even see different things. Like when he turned the house into a B and B, he didn't just turn the house into B and B. He did it super well. He got dressed up. He was talking, like schmoozing the guests. He had everything organized. He had Corey playing the piano for him, with Topanga being the maid. Like he went all in on this. And like when he put the cherry bomb in the mailbox, he even said, "Well, I couldn't just throw it because there are people around." Like he even then he wasn't going to hurt people, so he decided to mail it, which is the joke. Like, but
Yeah.
it's
Was he
just
the one too that there was an episode when either one of him or Corey they take some college classes and do really well at it
yes, that was
and then
Sean.
they want to I thought that was him. Yeah,
Yeah.
showing that like he's got a good brain. Like he's played off as an idiot early on, but he's got a good brain that just doesn't test well. And there are
Mhm.
plenty of people out there that are that way.
Yeah, it's shown early on that he's not that he's dumb. He just doesn't apply himself. Like very early on, this is a dumb joke, but I love it. Um, Feeney is asking them, "What's the acronym for SCUBA stand for?" And he says, "Something's creepy under boat, Andy."
That's a funny that's a funny way to come up with
Yeah,
that.
which would mean like in universe, he came up with that on the spot.
But then like it does show that when he's pushed to apply himself, like the Super Bowl episode, when
Yeah,
he needs to get Super Bowl tickets. Now, I think the writers wrote themselves into a corner because they never show you how he gets those Super Bowl tickets, but they
no,
do want you to know, like, yeah, he pushed himself. The whole episode is that like on his own, he can apply himself and
yeah,
he can do and he doesn't have to rely on Topanga. He doesn't have to rely on Corey solving his own problems for him because that's kind of a little bit of
yeah,
like this I hate to use this term, but it's a little bit of this white savior complex for them that they're in a better family. So they think that they can save people. And
yeah,
so that is like, I will be here all your life to save you. He's like, no, at some point he has to be able to apply himself and
yeah.
do it for himself. And if
See,
you try and take that away from him, they get an F on the assignment. So
exactly. Sean tried hard. One thing led to another, and he got to the Super Bowl.
yep. There you go. Full circle. Was that in this episode or was that in the last episode we did?
I don't know. If you couldn't tell, we may have recorded this week and last week back to back. So
I think that joke might have been in last week's episode. Maybe it was early in this one. I don't remember.
it's okay. No, I'm pretty sure it was last week because last week we were talking about stand up comedy.
Yes.
Yep.
I don't even know how we got there from there. We have so many rabbit trails. We're like, and then this guy walked in and he was a pirate.
It's a callback from about a month ago when we talked about Ask a Ninja. We didn't record that one today too. We don't record all of them back to back. Just these two episodes.
Callbacks. Hey, if Arrested Development can spend all season setting up a joke, we can call back one from a month ago.
True. Do you have any backups? Or I had
do.
three backups. Yeah.
Yeah, I had Sean, of course, as a backup, but I knew you would bring him up.
Yep.
I think if I was making my list purely without you in mind, I think Sean might have been my number two.
Okay.
I like Sean as a character. He's really good.
Yeah.
But another one that I like, he's a great character. So this show is full of teens, and one of the best teens in Stranger Things is Dustin Henderson.
Yeah.
And I think he really fits that mischievous. He's not so much like the troubled kid sort of thing, and like maybe if anything, Jonathan might be that, or Will is because he keeps getting haunted and possessed.
Yeah.
But Dustin has like this pranky side. He has this goofball side, and I mean, after all, like it's all of season 2 happens because he adopts a demon dog when it's still like this little baby. So I mean, it's his fault. So he's got a bit of that mischievous teen sort of personality, but he has such a good heart. He's so caring. He's so loyal to his friends, and he's also really brave, especially for where he is in life down there. So I really like Dustin. He deserves a shout out.
Yep, for sure. I also had Keenan from Keenan and Kel. We kind of along the same lines of Even Stevens. Like the writing was kind of lazy, but there's always Keenan got into a scheme and brought Kel along with him, and Kel was the dumb one who ruined it.
That's true. I was gonna say they both are kind of that way, but no, that dynamic is actually is more accurate. You got it.
Kel never wanted to go with the schemes. He was just dumb and wants to drink his orange soda.
He does. He given the bribes. You're right. Like that show kind of has like one note. Like every episode is the same. It's kind of like Three's Company. It's like, oh, this is the episode where there's some sort of misunderstanding. Oh, I think I've seen this one.
It's like Scooby Doo. Like, oh, I don't want to get involved. Scooby snack, okay. Like that's what Kel is with orange soda.
Yes.
I also had you could do any of the teens from Malcolm in the Middle, but I think especially Reese.
Yeah.
Who like less mischievous and more psychotic, I would say. Because he has that streak where he likes to inflict harm on people.
True. Yeah, I mean, like Dewey too is like very mischievous as a kid, and so he's got that side of him a lot too.
Dewey is easily like the smart. Like they say that Malcolm is smart, but Dewey is also really smart too. And Dewey does smart things. He'll mess with his brothers, but he actually will do things for other people. Like he got put in like the special kid, like the special education class, and it became very clear that he didn't need to be in there, but he was the only one advocating for these kids. Like everyone was just writing them off as these are the dumb kids. Let's don't even try. And he was the one actually like pulling them together, pulling up their strengths and being like their leader. And so when it came time to it, he like purposely had like some weird temper tantrum to keep himself in that class, not because he needed to, but because they needed him.
Sure. Malcolm in the Middle is another show that I don't remember too much of. I got certain episodes in my memory, but it's been a while since I watched that one.
Yeah. And then my last one was Will from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Okay. Another show that I haven't seen too much of.
No, but he got to have little things like. So I mean, the Banks have house. They're very much like the rich, kind of like the Gilmores from Gilmore Girls. Like we're the rich people. We're all high class society. And Will gets put in charge of doing the Christmas decorations, and he goes all overboard, like tacky Christmas decorations with like the big plastic Santas, and like everything is all covered. And of course, the neighbors are like, "This isn't high class. This is like, low class stuff. How dare you, Philip Banks, have this on your house?" and stuff like that. And he's like, "Oh, Will," and Will's like, "I like Christmas." I based that's that episode.
Now I don't have to watch it. Thank you. I thought you were gonna mention what's the main kid from Recess?
He would be another great one too. Animation was just not on my radar, but TJ from Recess would be another great one.
I figured that might make it on your list. I know when we originally pitched this, like one of the examples I came up with was Helga from Hey Arnold. That she's right in there. I don't like view her as like a must watch, but for Hey Arnold, she was one of the more captivating parts of it because it was unique to have a character that like actually is so real like that, where it's like I have a crush on this kid, but because I'm so young and emotionally I don't understand how to express myself, I'm going to express it through anger and bullying and violence. And so to have a character that was actually like that was really smart to do for a TV show.
Yeah. For sure.
Even now, I don't think I've seen too many other characters that have that as their slate.
It's what made Hey Arnold more unique.
Yeah.
But going back to TJ, in the Recess movie, it starts out with he's the coordinator of it. The 6 main kids have a whole scheme where they steal a bunch of candy, from the school, and they bring it to the roof of the school and catapult it out to all the kids at Recess, basically giving away free candy on the last day of school.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So that was it for what we've got. We're going to go ahead and move into trivia. So last week,
we talked about last week. That's what we do. Sorry, go ahead.
So last week we talked about some of the best chefs creating a meal. It was Thanksgiving, so gonna be eating some food. And so we talked about that last week. And one of the chefs we brought up was Julia Childs. She actually was played by Meryl Streep in a movie called Julie and Julia, where another person was trying to go through the Julia Childs cookbook. And so we asked who was the actress that played Julie in that movie, and that was Amy Adams.
Nice. On the subject of people playing other people, real quick before we go to trivia, did you watch the Weird Al movie?
I did.
It is ridiculous, but it's kind of was. I don't want to watch it again, but I'm glad I watched it.
That movie had so many cameos.
So many, yeah.
But it was it was a very Weird Al movie. It was exactly what you would expect. I'm sorry. It was exactly what you would expect in the way that you couldn't expect what you were going to get.
Yes.
And so they really toyed with the idea of of musical biopics. And they played on all those different tropes because Weird Al has had for being as weird as he has had a solidly normal career.
Yeah,
he hasn't
not
had
really
like
scandals.
Yeah, nothing scandalous. He hasn't had like the big drops and like the I'm worried about who I am. Like it seems like he came from a really good family and he had very good stability that being a celebrity didn't ruin him and it didn't cause him to really act out in any ways that other celebrities have had. So
yeah. One of the notes I said that was actually true though was that he got his first accordion from a traveling salesman.
Yep. That and like the whole relationship he had with Dr. Demented. Yeah, Demento. That was a real thing too. And I did know that because like I knew that there was a guy that I didn't know what his name was before the movie.
Yeah, which I mean, Rainn Wilson was perfect casting on it. I love that scene at the pool where he busts into another one bites the dust. We have all like the cameos of like the celebrities of the time.
Who are you, John Deacon? Who? John from Queen. I play bass. Oh, okay.
Yeah, go watch that. It's on the Roku channel.
And it's free. So, it's if you don't, all you have to do is set up a Roku account, which doesn't cost anything.
Yeah. And it's just so weird to think. I know he's had more of a career than this, but like Harry Potter is Weird Al. It's just weird to say.
I like the whole I don't remember what the setup was, but to get to the point of him calling him like Dr. Dementor or like him calling him a Dementor.
Yeah.
Like you worked a little bit to get there, but it works to have it Harry Potter calling this guy a Dementor.
Was it actually Daniel Radcliffe singing or was it Weird Al singing?
Oh, it was Weird Al, 100%.
Okay. That's what I thought. Okay.
Because Daniel Radcliffe, as unique as that movie is, and Daniel Radcliffe does a great job just being over the top. He is not very good at lip syncing. Like it was just, it was very much like, oh, this is a completely different voice, and maybe that's part of the comedy. Maybe the comedy is like it shouldn't sound like that voice is coming out of you.
Yeah, I think if it was a more serious movie, they probably would have tried harder to get the lip sync right.
Yeah. Probably.
Anyways, so this week's trivia is about, you know what? You brought it up and I didn't, but I came with the trivia on it. The Recess movie. In the Recess movie, we meet TJ's older sister, who has a voice, who was voiced by a celebrity cameo who was a famous star in the 90s. So who was his sister voiced by in Recess the movie? School's out.
There you go. And you clearly had that prepared beforehand and you didn't just come up with it in the middle of the episode.
No. I knew you were going to bring up Recess.
I'd forgotten to bring up Recess myself, but I'm like, I know he's going to bring it up, and that's all that matters.
Yes.
Well, there you have it. Hey, have a great. I know we're not there yet. We're in the middle of the month. I'm going to be in North Carolina this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun, but then we'll be back next week, and you won't be missing anything. Don't worry. I know. I see you out there. I see you sweating. I see you worrying. But even though it's early in the month, have an amazing Christmas. I'm going to say it again next week, but you made it. You made it through 2023. Or no, I'm sorry. I guess I don't know. You made it through 2022, most likely. So if you die in the next 2 weeks, then I'm sorry. I didn't do that. That wasn't me.
And I'll say, have the Christmas you deserve.
Why is my Christmas so miserable? Thanks, Brian. Well, you're kind of a jerk. So
yeah, exactly. If you deserve a great Christmas, you have a fantastic Christmas.
I wrote in Christmas Carol, I wrote a line that is, someone says to Scrooge, I hope your day is as pleasant as you are.
Ah.
It's the same energy. All right. Well, anyway, until next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
I remind you to stay tuned and keep watching.